Hey guys, so we're moving on with more of our design trends for 2021. One thing I've been noticing lately and has been sort of commented upon in multiple articles is the sort of emergence of kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say photorealistic, but using, photo editing to create some surrealistic things. And so we're going to do a couple different sort of experiments with that, including some techniques that we've done before. So what we'll do is we're going to create, you've probably seen these animations. We're going to create, this is going to be a multiple step process here. And along the way, we're going to submit different things. But it's really important that we have this thing saved, as a PSD file along the way here. So I've got this picture I found off of Pexels. I'll have that included in the Dropbox here. So obviously you just place it in wherever you want. I have eliminated the background. I have turned it into a smart object. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this here. I've turned it into a smart object, and then I've taken, my crop tool. So if you take your, crop tool, you can kind of just expand this out a little bit, just so I can get some extra room for various things. And we're going to basically just divide this face into multiple parts here. So the way I've done this now, you've got two options whenever you duplicate layers that are smart objects. You can right-click on this, and you can say Create New Smart Object via Copy. The idea with the New Smart Object via Copy is this. So if I were to say double-click on this right here, or double-click on this, it'll open up the smart object, and it'll give me like options on how to edit this object here apart from the main sort of like PSD file that I've got. So you notice we have this little PSB file here, which is kind of like essentially what the smart objects are saved to your computer as. Every time you create a smart object, you're creating a sort of a cache file, which I think goes on the scratch disks and stuff. So just going to be aware of that. And if you have that, you see layer 0.psb. If you go over here, you can kind of like look at this. And just sort of double click on this right here, and it says layer 1.psb. So two separate files here. Just to keep that in mind, you don't have to do that every single time for this right here. All we're going to do is actually just sort of duplicate this once. So I'm just going to say Control J, and because this is it's the same smart object. If I do something to the smart object, like if I double click on this one, and I do some edits here, and then come back, over here, it's going to affect both of these layers. That's what's going to happen there. But I don't need to do that. What I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to right click on this, and I'm going to rasterize this layer right here. So what we'll do is, I've added a background gradient here. You can obviously put a flat color or a gradient, whatever you want. Just put something in there. Obviously, click down here, choose something, solid color, gradient, whatever you want. And we're going to render this one invisible for now, or you can put this behind that layer there. It's whatever here. So I'm just gonna click on this. I'm just gonna, what I'll do is I'll just get my pen tool here, so P on the keyboard, and I'm just gonna start dividing this up by using my path tool. So I'll go a little closer here, and we're gonna try to create a different kind of division. This is much the same vein as our little headspaces thing. We're going to try to create a series of shapes that make it look as if this whole face is sort of being unwound like a ribbon. So the way we're going to do this is by clicking and sort of trying to follow the sort of curve of the face up until a certain point. So we'll come over down here, right? And then we'll just sort of curve that around, and then we'll just sort of make it to where, oops, there we go. Let's just double click on that. Let's just go ahead and make sure that our pen tool is set to be on path and try this again. So I'm just gonna start here. I'm gonna kind of curve around the top of her head here, and I'm going to sort of end it by kind of moving upwards. So we have this little upward thing here. If you hold down the control button, you can grab this, you can kind of move this around a little bit like that and stuff. So we want there to be like a little bit of an upward kind of like turn to it, and I'll just finish this path off however I want. Right click on it, make it into a selection, get any kind of selection tool you want. It could be, a lasso, it could be a marquee tool. Right click on this, layer via cut. It's important that we do layer via cut. So I'm going to call this top of head. And so if I were to render this invisible, you can see we've kind of cut that off right there. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can't follow that same vein. I'll make that, I'm going to follow that same kind of thing. I'm going to have this sort of curving downwards down here and curving upwards over here. We don't have to do it quite so small. In fact, I'm going to start out a little bit lower here. I don't want to make too many layers here. So I'll have that kind of curving downwards on that side and curving upwards up here. And let's finish this round. Right click on it, make a selection. M on the keyboard for your marquee tool. Right click on this, layer via cut. And I'll call this, let's see, what do I got here? Forehead. And then I'll go down to this right here once again. Let me just go ahead and take that off. And I'll just, once again, do this right here. Let me start down this way, and I'll just have this be kind of maybe 2 more divisions here. A little bit. We don't want to keep going. We don't want to get too extreme in terms of our points. We want them to be relatively even. Right click on this, make a selection, M on the keyboard for your marquee tool, layer via cut. Call this one eyes and nose. And then make that invisible there. And then we'll just take this down here, do one more. Maybe we'll just start down here by the shoulder. Come up a little bit like so. Maybe more like towards the base of the hair, because we don't want to know too much about all this. Spacebar allows me to move this point up and down. And I'll just sort of, I think I will come down here. Might just bring up some issues later on, but it should be fine. Okay, and then right click on it, make selection, make sure I'm on that right layer here, right click on it, layer via cut, M on the keyboard first, layer via cut, and we'll call this one mouth, right? And then down here we can call this one shoulders. So we want this in reverse order because it's going to come in handy later on. So I'll just drag these down one at a time. Just mouth below the shoulders, nice and nose, forehead, top of head, and we'll just make all these visible now. Okay, so what we'll do is one by one. I'm going to zoom out slightly here. I'm just going to make sure my auto select is chosen and make sure show transforms is chosen, just so when you do this, I'm just going to drag them straight up, hold down shift while you do it, and we'll just sort of pull these up like so. You may have seen something similar if you've ever gotten one of those little milkshakes from a gas station. There's one on Forest Hill and Northside Drive, where you keep a little frozen thing out of the cooler, and then you just pop it in the machine and it mixes it up for you, put some milk in there. It's tasty. I'm going to save this for now. All right, so we've got this hanging out here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can create the sort of background to it. So what we'll do is we'll create the sort of like reverse side of the ribbon. I'm going to make all these below every one of these layers here, just on a separate layer down here somewhere. So what I'll do is I'll change it from path to shape, and if it says it's black on the fill, that's fine. And what we'll do is we'll just sort of kind of maneuver it like so, kind of, and then have it point downwards. And I'm just gonna get in close here. So if you get the down here, there's a direct select tool right here, A on the keyboard. You can click on here and you can kind of like move this around if you like, which it's going to be obscured by the back of the there. I'll get my pen tool one more time, and it should let me connect up here, and we'll just sort of curve upwards, and then we'll curve upwards again, like so. And I'll just connect these, and I'll get in close and just make sure with the A on the keyboard that these are sort of as close as they can reasonably be said to be, matched up. Okay, so now it's going to be time to do some experiments, because you will almost certainly not have created a shape exactly like mine. So what I'm going to do might not work for what you've got. But what we'll do is we're going to apply a gradient to this. Let's go over here to Fill, and we'll go over here to Gradient, and I'm just going to choose a random, say, 3-color gradient like so. And I'm going to choose 3 colors, so I'm just going to grab any color here. If it's going to be, I'm probably going to choose something like pink or purple. It can be whatever you like. And I'm going to desaturate it a good deal. And I'll press OK. And then I'll just do the same thing here. Let me actually see if I can't pull this in such a way to where I can see that color. I'm going to double click on this, and I should be able to sample this color right here. And the same thing here, double click on this, sample this color, and make it a good deal brighter or lighter. in terms of saturation. That way it kind of gives this idea that's sort of curving behind there. And if you were to say, for instance, use your little angle tool here to allow it to see where the shapes are, and you could even move these little stops in different directions to make it seem as if, to make the sort of color more apparent. Uh-oh. And just don't Control Z when you do that. Don't ever hit Control Z when you're on here because it's going to take it away. So I'll pull that down. Just pull that down and remove that stop. Okay. Maybe if you move this a little bit closer here. Alright, so just eyeball this as best you can to where you can see this gradient showing up here. It's basically going in a straight line, whereas the shape we've got here is not. But there you go. Okay, cool. So you can kind of see where we're going with this. I'm going to see if I can't get this to be matched up a bit better here. So V on the keyboard to grab this guy, A on the keyboard to activate my direct select tool, and then I should be able to grab this. It's right up there. And even though it's not going to show, I do want this to be, well, I can just hang that out there so it doesn't go past the hair. So we definitely don't want any of the shape showing past the silhouette here. We want this to look as if it's kind of just there. Okay, so I'm going to save this, save a progress here. If this thing is selected, what's going to be great about this is if this shape is selected, when you get your pen tool again and you start making the next shape, you can sort of move this down and then have it go down again. It's going to automatically have most of the, pull that this way here. It's going to have most of the color information that you already had available. Alright, and so I'm going to get my tool here. Okay. I think this is alright. Alright. Okay. Now there, looks okay. I might just come on to this guy here and try to move this down some more. That looks better. Alright, good. Alright, so once again, I'll make sure this is selected. And then when I get my pen tool again, it should be able to automatically have all the information I need for my gradient. Obviously, like I was saying, if you go get those milkshakes from that Circle K on Northside and Forest Hill, then you'll see these little animations that we're going to be doing here. They're just everywhere. I wonder if I can make it go like this. Down and then up. So, and kind of, let's think here, how is this supposed to be? So it goes down like that. Yeah, it's going to go down like that and then up a little bit and then, okay, and this thing goes over this way. And have this go up. Okay, curve around here. Alright, so yeah, kind of eyeball that, because again, the shapes that you made down here aren't exactly going to match up with mine. So you're going to want to eyeball those. Alright, and then we'll do one last over here. Pull it down. Have it go down all the way down here. Connect up this one, and then we'll just curve it over, and then curve it up. And just make sure that matches up there. Alright, so there we go. Right, that's a fun little look to it. Make sure that is not... Okay, cool. So we'll keep this, make sure you save this as a PSD file. So save this as a PSD file, because we're going to animate this later on. And but for now, let's do one last thing. Let's go over here to let's go over here. Let's go to our. Oh, that's fine. We'll just make a new adjustment layer at the very top. So make a new layer here, and make a new gradient map, and you know, you can or even a color, you know, color chart there. We can do purple and orange. That's fine, and we'll just make sure this is very, very low on the fill here, like 10-15% or so. That way it looks a little more. Okay. We can even you can even take all this, make a new layer here, Control Alt Shift and E, and it'll combine everything, and we can just go to filter, noise, add noise here, and make a little noise on there. And just kind of unifies everything just a bit better here. That's fun. Actually, what I'll do is this. Let me just go over here to. That's fine. We'll leave it there. Right? This is good. Right. So again, just make sure that it follows a logical pattern here. So this goes up. You know, it goes down, around, down, 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 down. It goes back and forth. If I could go back, I probably would maybe make this a little bit better, you know, here, but this is fine. And yeah, so we've got this little ribbon-looking thing here. So this is step one of a bigger project here. Just make sure all the layers are separated at some point. We're going to come back in here, and we're going to adjust all this before we start into the animation process. Let's go to File, let's go to Save, and then let's go to File, Save As. Slow it down here. Hopefully your new computers are handling this better than mine is. Save As, and make sure it's a JPEG before you submit it. Call it, you could call it Head Experiments. All right, save, and good stuff. All right, very cool. So back to Photoshop here, and then we're going to be moving on to After Effects tomorrow. Awesome. Can't wait to see you guys produce. See you all in class.